Hello and good afternoon, good evening, and in some locations, good morning. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And indeed, I have my brothers, my friends, my family with me here today. And that includes our very special guest, folks. We have a very controversial show for you. Regarding what is going on at Moon Studios, and in an interview with VentureBeat, past, present, and current employees sat down and really let the cat out of the bag regarding sexism, racism, harassment. And man, this is it does not look good for Moon Studios. It makes you wonder why Microsoft is not publishing their next game. It came out a couple of like early last year that it was their decision to pull it from Microsoft because they wanted to keep it exclusive. I have a comment from the head of the studio. I actually have several comments, one of which is about Microsoft having guts, and the other one is about, well, it's a really heavy racial motivated comment. I will issue a warning before I read it so you are understanding that it is very adult material and what he had to say. And this is directly pulled from venturebeat.com, their article. We also have a former female employee who took to Twitter and dropped some incredible knowledge regarding her time, her 2 years spent with Moon Studios. And on the back end of that very serious conversation, and that's one that we do not shy away from on this program. I am with all grown men who understand that this is something that is important to talk about, and we will never shy away from doing so, even if they are heavy, heavy topics. And both of them, well, this particular one is heavy because it has a lot of undertones that make people uncomfortable, but we're still going to talk about it like adults, of course. And then on the back end, folks, while Gran Turismo 7 continues to spiral out of control,
Mhm.
and Polyphony Digital and PlayStation, or SIE, have no answer. Oh, I'm sorry, they do have an answer. It's
You
called
mean
a
SOB?
yeah, yeah. So, well, maybe SOB, but I can say that their smokescreen is the announcement today of the Jade Raymond run studio has been acquired by SIE PlayStation. That makes a total of seven developers in the last 18 months, including the Bungie $3.6 billion deal that was announced earlier this year. But let's get into the introductions as we wait for people to file on in here. And we're going to start first with our very special guest, the best voice in the business, who has a lot to say on what happens. The two topics we're going to be getting into. Crispy Bomb, welcome, brother.
Oh, good to be here. Bomb is in the house. And yeah, I'm going to be dropping some bombs because I think people need some common sense for the
Oh, yeah.
love of God. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? What are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to the team that's under you? People need to get their head out of the you know what's. Let's get into it.
Yeah, and you're gonna get some Elden Ring gameplay on the back end, some later end, no spoiler free, no bosses in there, and of course you're gonna get some Tunic, which I'm playing. I put 4 hours into today. Wow, man, what an amazing title made by one man. I'm sure he had help on the back end, but man, it's really something special. If you are a Zelda enthusiast, and I'm talking OG Zelda, 8-bit Zelda, you are going to appreciate this. It does have a lot of options in regards to accessibility. So if you find it too hard, you can put on God mode, and it does not affect your achievements. PS, by the way, so you can play the game in what would be considered story mode and don't worry about dying 10,000 times like I have in Elden Ring. I put it on a couple of instances. This game is hard. This game will challenge you, and you know what? After Elden Ring, and I'm near 100 hours into Elden Ring, I'm level 152 as of today, and I got killed more times in that game so far than I got probably in the last 2 years. So I'm gonna probably take the easy road on this game, but I'm having fun with it, and you'll check it out. But let's welcome in the Wandering Dutch. Dutch, you have had a chance to read what we're going to be talking about, and you pulled a specific tweet from someone that is not a fanboy and has a good stake in on the racing game, so to speak. And he had a lot to say. We're going to break that down. How are you, man? Oh, you're muted, brother.
Yes, hello. This is
Welcome
what happens
back,
when you
Dutch.
just sit quietly for everybody else. Yeah, awesome to be here. I'm looking forward to getting these two great topics. Both of them are pretty long-winded in themselves, but they do need covered because, of course, one's very hypocritical of certain media sites and particular people in the community, and the other one, of course, is a very serious topic that needs covered. Needs getting to the bottom of. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. Massive shout to everybody in the chat tonight. Obviously, make sure you smash that like button. Let's get into it. Let's have some great discussions.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, brother. And next up, Kay Asante. What's up, dude? Are you ready for tonight's very controversial conversations that we're about to have?
Excuse me. Look at the voice cracking on me. Oh, dang. No, I'm ready, man. But I don't even see any of these as actually, spicy topics. They just seem like they're kind of, logical conversations. Really.
Yeah.
Some people unfortunately take them as ridiculous, fiery topics, but. I'm here for it, man. Some of these conversations need to be had. Myself and Everborn have similar conversations pretty frequently on the weekend show. But yes, this is going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to having these conversations. Welcome everybody in the chat. My brothers in the panel. Good to see you guys again. It's been a busy week for me. It's only Monday, so
imagine that.
That's because you've been on the set of the Halo show. Have you guys seen the new trailer? That dude looks exactly.
He keeps
like
following me with this.
It is him.
He
I don't care what you say. It's you.
Yeah.
I just hope it's Johnson. I hope this is Lieutenant Johnson we're talking about here. I don't know who he is until the show starts. I hope it's Lieutenant Johnson. That's all I'm saying.
It's hilarious.
I challenge anyone to look at that trailer and tell me it's not Kay Asante in that show.
Hey man,
we've all signed
as the
NDAs.
checks are in the mail, I'm good. As long as the checks are in the mail, shoot, let's do this.
Sign those NDAs right now as we speak. But Kay Asante, welcome, brother. Glad that you're feeling better. Mag, what's going on,
yes,
brother? You are someone that doesn't shy away from talking about some controversy, and we're going to get into it right now. How are you feeling?
Oh, man, you know what? What a show to have me. I'm always on the show on the Monday nights, but what a show to be on because you know what? I live in controversy, or as Gaz likes to say, the souls. So, we're going to be in getting a whole lot of sauce tonight. That's for damn sure. So a lot of controversy, a lot of things to talk about. But, at the same time, we're all very intelligent men on this panel. And so, you know what?
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. I also want to congratulate, by the way, one of our panel members, Everborn, on getting his saga out there and complete.
Yes, congratulations.
That's a big milestone. It should be celebrated by get out there, get buying and get supporting, folks. This guy's working his ass off over here. So
everyonesaga.com.
Hey, yes. There you go. I just wanted to congratulate him on that publicly. And everybody else in the chat, Big Bad Mo, you're listening to us at work, everything else. Guys, let's have a great show tonight. We got some crazy things to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And Everborn Saga, welcome back, brother. I know you and Kay I almost had to throw the referee flag into the arena, on Saturday. That was a pretty testy conversation that you guys were having.
That's because he was making fun of my beard. But
stop.
No,
back,
yeah,
brother.
man. We'll see where the conversation goes tonight. I'm excited. We'll see if any minds have been changed or whether anybody acknowledges that I'm right, as I usually am.
About your beard?
About
No, I'm very wrong about this.
Kidding, yeah.
Well, listen, let's rip the Band-Aid off, folks, and get right into it. To open up the show, folks, like I said, this is a serious topic. It's a conversation that I've been wanting to have since a community member, who I don't have their name in front of me, reached out to me and said, "Hey, Boom, could you talk about what's going on at Moon Studios?" And I'm like, I didn't even hear anything. Could you forward me the link? And when I read the story from VentureBeat.com, I was sickened. And basically, it opened up with Moon Studios oppressive and toxic workplace has been outed during an interview with VentureBeat, and it looks like after this report, Moon Studios may and should be no more, ladies and gentlemen. Gaming fans know Moon Studios for its amazing Ori games. There was part one, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Both are very gorgeous looking games that told very emotional stories. Well, according to the reporter from GamesBeat, this is what they had to say. Moon developers told GamesBeat that they found the studio's culture oppressive. They allege that the leaders used calls from an open and honest workplace as a precedence for abuse. The founders criticized the work of employees in public chats and were stingy with praise. So far, one is suing or claiming unlawful like behavior, but many workers are fed up with what they've seen, and that comes away of inappropriate behavior by both founders. Now, one of the founders, Mahler, who is the head of the studio, according to the report, made regular, unprofessional, and offensive comments via chat that everyone in the studio could read. And folks, this is where I want to just give you the heads up. This is where we get into some potential racial innuendos, and I'm just giving you a warning. It's one paragraph. I gotta read it because it really does set a precedence on where this conversation is going to go. And this is from Mahler. This is and he is directly Thomas Mahler. He's the head of Moon Studios. Folks, this is what he had to say according to the report from VentureBeat. Tyler is the only person who is aware of my devious plans to kill the Jews by making them work to death through game development. And he jokingly said this in a text chat that was available for anyone in the company to read. Now, we do have a former female employee who worked at Moon Studios for 2 years, and her name is Francesca Sangrati, and she no longer is a part of the company, and this is what she had to say on Twitter. I worked at Moon Studios for 2 years. I was the only woman on the story team. I struggled to find the words to express what soul-destroying experience it was to work with the heads of the studios, Thomas and Gennady. She continues, the whole studio is built on a lie that quality justifies everything. Verbal abuse, crunch, public humiliation, but it just wears you down and burns you out. Burnt out people do not produce quality. And she continues, anything good that you had made before they had killed your creative spark was used to lure you in. Unwitting devs in to fill the places of the friends you watched leave one by one. And she finishes this. Please don't be fooled. Don't perpetrate the problem by working at a place like Moon Studios. We have to stop this mental abuse that is just what the industry is like. There are better places out there, and you deserve better. Now, I want to go first to Kay Asante. This is a heavy subject, Kay. This is something that we talked about on the phone today before we went live. What are your takeaways, not only from what the head of the studio had to say regarding a particular race, of people, but to hear from not only Francesca, but other former employees and current employees that are still at Moon Studios? How serious is this matter?
Well, I believe it's a pretty serious matter. I mean, especially when you have folks that are at risk of career suicide, if you will, coming out and saying, "Look, I've experienced it myself. This is what they've done," or whatever. This is a serious matter. And it kind of starts threading of a bit of a needle, and you start to understand why it is that Xbox has kind of distanced themselves from Moon Studios since they've made 2 amazing games, right? Like, no one can doubt that their contribution from a creative standpoint has been excellent. Both times that they have released their product, it's been lauded by everyone, and rightly so. But this should prove that just because you're able to make great product does not justify how you got there and the means to an end and all the stuff that they're doing to their workers to get there. It's so interesting when I heard this because they were one of the studios that had cracked the nut on work from home way before the pandemic was even a factor in the equation. They have employees all over the world. You know, they work from home solely. They don't necessarily have a home office specifically that they head to. But I think I had read not too long ago like a report about how their work-life balance works, and they were lauded for their ability to adapt from work from home and all of this. So to hear all of this now, it's just it's a little bit disheartening, which means that original report was a little bit more puff, a bit of a puff piece that just told what they wanted it to hear rather than what was really going on, which is unfortunate, you know. Yeah, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is the same founder who came out and was very critical about Microsoft not releasing their games everywhere.
You know, it's funny you say that because I actually have that quote in front of me. So just to give people context to what exactly you're talking about, Thomas Mahler said this last year. I personally wish Microsoft would have the guts to just go through with their vision, make their games and port them to all platforms, not leave anyone behind. The 13-year-old kid whose parents were able to only afford to buy one system for their child now won't grow up playing Halo because Microsoft believes that it makes the most financial sense to leave PlayStation players out. How does that benefit anyone but Microsoft? Yeah, you'll probably sell a bunch more Xboxes, but you lose out on millions of potential dedicated fans. Now, that is one of the most cockeyed, one-way knucklehead statements I've ever heard.
Oh yeah,
coming from seeing how PlayStation prides themselves on keeping content away from everyone, but you know, the great PlayStation fans.
That's right.
This again, please, but continue.
No. You're absolutely right. And if you recall, when that statement was made and we were all having a conversation about it, we all said, "Oh, it's probably because, you know, he wanted to put his game on more consoles, couldn't do it, and because of that, it's affecting his pocket, and that's why he's coming out this way." It's a very disingenuous way of bringing out discourse, because he basically tried to frame it in this earnest way that, oh, Microsoft's vision is not being adhered to by leaving other platforms out, when you could clearly see it was a naked assertion because he wasn't making the money he wanted to make. You could just see that, right? You could tell based on the conversation, the way the statement was framed, you know? You could definitely tell. They brought it on the Switch because they probably asked for permission and were given permission to do so. But because he wasn't allowed to put it on other consoles that he wanted to, then he decided to shroud his frustration around this earnest-like argument, right? So that right there told you the type of person you were dealing with, which I thought was a little bit eyebrow raising a bit. So, and obviously, just if you're not a tactful person, it doesn't automatically mean you're an abusive person. So that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, but you know, the way he has been out in the community, the way he's been saying things, he's the same guy who was very vocal about insulting CDPR when they released Cyberpunk. Like, he has a history of putting foot-to-mouth disease over and over again. You know, he has that history within the community. You type his name into Google and the quotes you see returned tend to be one of those of, this guy just won't keep his mouth shut. So hearing this about his studio and how his culture is put together, it's not necessarily surprising to me, because it feels like he's like one of those people who's out front with a big mouth, but possibly could be doing a bit more, you know, internal correction on his side, you know?
Absolutely. You know, again, it's pretty disgusting to see someone that had you know, this puff piece, you know, written about the studio, about how they're making it work via being all across the world. And what's interesting, and I want to go next to Wandering Dutch, you know, Kay, I'm glad you brought it up, because Moon Studios is not a traditional studio. They have people that work via online or from home. And this is something they're one of the first, you know, semi decent sized studios to be able to pull this off. What's interesting, Dutch, is this kind of abuse went on, and it wasn't actually in studio. It was actually over, you know, from different countries, could you imagine working in that studio as this is happening? It is a bit of a shocking. And again, this is a report from VentureBeat. They did interview again several current and former employees, and again, we did have Francesca come out on Twitter and speak her mind. What are your thoughts about this? And are you happy to know that Microsoft is no longer looking to do business with them?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously we spoke in the green room a little bit about this as well, and I was saying Microsoft, and rightfully so. But when you get to the size of Microsoft's level, you intentionally take a step back from companies that are doing this. And specifically for them, if they saw that it wasn't something that they were likely to change because it was the attitudes of the owners, then yeah, they took a step back and they essentially said, we're not going to be supporting yourselves, and we're certainly not going to be, should we say, helping you fund the next game that you're creating. It's horrific to hear yet another studio, and now it's an indie studio, and I would imagine, unfortunately, there's probably a lot more indie studios we don't hear about. And hats off to VentureBeat for covering it, because there's obviously certain people that love to profit off people's misery that aren't covering things like this. So hats off to them for actually covering this particular studio, because rightfully so, they need their voices heard about it. It's just horrible to hear about it yet again, that this another set of workers and developers are being kind of cast to disillusions about a workplace because of the shallow minds of particular developers who have obviously got too big of an ego to actually do anything worthwhile, and treat the staff with dignity. But obviously profits to them is above all else, and not the dignity of their staff or the treatment of their staff. So to be honest, I didn't expect to see it, I didn't expect to read it, but following the following the message from last year, it was, I can't believe it's last year already.
Yeah, it was last year, correct.
Jesus wept. Following the messages last year that essentially stated, Microsoft need to do X, Y, and Z. The attitude that he put across there was completely separate from reality. It's absolutely not surprising that he's going to come out with idiotic statements like this and then continue to put his foot in his mouth. Thankfully, they've got some very very courageous developers that work there that are willing to actually speak out on it and say it like it is and how it is. And hopefully a lot more of the developers that are there and those that have remained, that have stuck in with it despite all of these challenges, start to see some kind of better treatment following this news coming out. Very surprised that following this coming out, Moon Studios or any of their leads have not come out and actually released a statement or an apology or anything along those lines.
No, I've been checking the interwebs for one, and I have not seen that. They have not addressed it as before we went live.
Yet. Yeah, exactly. So it is horrible, and to be honest, it's it kind of just, it's a bit worrying, isn't it? Just seeing so many studios fall into the same thing and be mistreated like this all the time. It's not just one now. We're talking Ubisoft, we're talking Activision, Blizzard, we're talking multiple, even Naughty Dog, Sony of themselves, Sony PlayStation have had the same thing.
Well, they have a current lawsuit with over near a dozen women claiming sexism and racism within SIE America. So yeah, they're not. They make great games, but they also are not out of the spotlight for these kind of scenarios. And that came up at the end of last week. From what we understand in the latest information that I have regarding SIE and these claims, they're still, even though they say women are important to their company, are still trying to have these near dozen complaints dismissed. Yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen.
No, neither do I. To be honest. And you know what it is. I fully hope that that all of this stuff does get ironed out. Like we've mentioned before, Microsoft and since they've had these issues in the past, and they really put their gear down in order to make sure that this works correctly going forward for them. They don't have these issues going forward, and they've got something correct in place, and that everyone's got fair ground. no one feels like they're kind of belittled or anything like that. But it's just horrible to read, isn't? There's not much else to say upon it other than you can kind of see in the man what the studio's all about, and he's obviously made his point and essentially stating that he thinks he's above everyone else at that company, and that's really the bottom line. That's the bottom line of it.
No, 100%. And I mean, listen, this isn't a mere employee. Before I bring Crispy Bomb in on the conversation, because I know his engines are revving, I got to bring Mag in because Mag, you recently got a promotion, right?
Yeah.
You represent the company that you work for. This guy is the owner. He's the founder of Moon Studios. He holds the highest position within the company. I got to be honest with you. I know that some people may not find that comment to be disgusting. I do. I personally do. I think his treatment of the human beings that help make these games, from what we're hearing, is disgusting. I want to get your point of view from a business side. If you are a publisher looking to support this guy in Moon Studios with their next game, I got to be honest with you. If I'm the one writing the checks, I think I'm pulling out of this deal.
Yeah, and the thing is, especially when you're dealing with larger corporations that it's not like a one-to-one, situation where it's like, man-to-man, woman-to-woman, face-to-face, kind of thing, where these people have public images, and especially a company as big as Microsoft, Sony, Apple, whoever, right? Google, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
They literally have to separate themselves from all of this, and it's not because they care. Don't fool yourself, kids. It's all about getting sued.
Right.
Okay? At the end of the day, Microsoft doesn't care what the head of Moon Studio says. They don't. They just don't want to be associated with it, because then what ends up happening is they get dragged into a lawsuit, which they don't want to be a part of. Because then they're going to say that, Microsoft will continue to do business with them for one reason or another. And what that does is that it shows that they actually support, this kind of behavior.
And Mag, to your point, usually the way these lawsuits work, whoever the biggest fish is, they'll try to pretend it's their fault because they have the most money for settlement.
The most money. Exactly. And when you're dealing with a damn near, $2.7 trillion company.
Yep.
To even get like a 0.00%, you're still talking like $100 million or whatever the hell. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like throwing numbers around. But anyway, the point is that you want to disassociate yourself from this kind of behavior. Now, in terms of this guy, I can't Mahler. Is this guy insane?
Yeah.
Like, how do you, as like, you're the CEO, you are the boss, you are the owner of this company, and you work remotely with people. See, this is what I don't understand about people. In this day and age, this is not the 1980s where you say something and then someone's like, oh, yeah, he said something nasty. Oh, yeah, prove it. You can't. Everything is written down, documented, screenshotted, saved. Like, nothing goes away.
Yeah.
Like, how do you say something like the comment about, killing the Jews? Maybe he was making a joke with a friend, but those are not jokes you make as the CEO and whatever of a company.
Yeah.
If you have a friend that you have that kind of a relationship with, go ahead and make those jokes in private. You do not do it in a workplace. I'm not condoning it. I'm not condoning it at all. But I'm just saying, like, when I have some friends that I work with, it's like, when I still work in the kitchen, okay, because the kitchen's a rough place. Let's face it, okay?
Yeah.
It's not the office. When I'm in the office, I'm a different person. When I'm on the phone, I'm a different person. When I'm dealing with contacts from all over the world, I'm a different person. But in the kitchen, I say to the guy, Daniel, give me a couple of cucumbers. Why? I'm like, because I'm going to decapitate you if you don't. You know what I mean? Stupid things like that. And we all laugh about it. It's just fun jokes, whatever it was. But we don't make like I would never sit like in a board meeting or whatever or make ridiculous jokes like that, because someone would take that the wrong way and say he's violently threatening the staff. Right?
I mean, hey, Mag, again, to your point, Bobby K did that and he ended up having to sell the company to Microsoft.
Right. Okay.
And
there you go.
$70 billion.
Right. People make these jokes all the time or whatever. And I can't reach something on the top shelf. And then dude walks behind me because that's because you're a short ass Italian. Someone would take offense to that if you said that in whatever. But in a kitchen, it's just hilarious. We just ha. Okay, funny. Can you grab me the bowl, please? And whatever. Right. We make these jokes. They make jokes about me. Make jokes about whatever. But the thing is, when you're the boss and you're like in that setting, when you're in charge of people, okay, not me. Like, I know it sounds contradictory, which what I just said, but like, that's just like in my restaurant days and the kitchen days, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. But when you're in a setting where you're in charge of people look up to you, you're the one that has to make all the final decisions. You are the quote unquote father figure, mother figure. If you're the woman in charge, man in charge, whoever. Okay. They are literally hanging on every word you say. And let's also face another fact here, guys. Okay. And this is something that I'm going to get into, which is actually going to be even more controversial than this actual topic. People have to be careful. This new generation of kids are not the same as with the ones that you're listening to right now in this panel.
Yeah,
these
correct.
kids are soft. Okay. And I'm not saying I'm excusing any of these other kind of behaviors, but I'm saying you can't even speak in a certain tone. And they're like, he's abusive. Right? So it's crazy. I actually spoke to a bunch of restaurant owners because I'm out of the restaurant game now entirely. And the thing is, I spoke to a lot of these owners. They're like, we can't even tell these kids to do anything now. We can't even be like, guys, hurry up on tables 4, 5, and 6. They're pissed off. They want to leave. That staff will literally walk out the door and never come back.
Wow.
If I did that, first of all, the other staff would kill me on the way out the door. They'd be like, you ain't going anywhere. Right? That kind of stuff. But now, these kids will just drop their tongs and walk out the door. And he goes, and they tell me this stuff, and they're like, that's the way they are. He goes, you can't even tell them what to do now. He goes, they'll just leave. So now people are handcuffed by this kind of stuff. And so now I'm starting to hear, like, you look at this industry, right? You look at the video game industry and all these other things. I'm starting to really have a hard time believing every single company on earth is this abusive, horrible, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you're like, okay, you know what? Things do happen. Let's face it. People are a-holes. People are not appropriate to each other. People are racist. People are abusive. People are all these things. You can't ignore that these things are out there. Those things are out there. It is a fact. They're never going to go away. But the thing is, I have a hard time believing that every single company on earth is abusive and racist and this and that. I really don't. I really think a lot of it is spin. Dave Chappelle said it best. This is the age of spin. Don't believe everything that is being told to you. And I think that sometimes when these companies are not covered by, like VentureBeat covered this, sure. I'm not talking about this. I'm just talking about in generalities. A lot of these situations and the big companies don't talk about it, don't do anything about it. I don't think it's because they're not going to get enough clicks from it. I don't think that there's just enough to justify writing a story about it because it turns into a he say, she says thing. The Activision stuff, 100%. This Mahler guy sounds like a real a-hole to me. Like he sounds like a real cocky, arrogant, just shoots off the mouth at everything that you could possibly, you know what I mean? That anything he could possibly say. He seems like one of those kind of guys. And I know guys like that. They're a very cocky, arrogant, aggressive corporate types. I do know the type because I deal with them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not one of them. I may yell and scream and whatever, but I'm not like that at work. In fact, at work, I am one of the most soft-spoken, most supportive, and one of the most approachable people that people can, and they all come to me for everything. Not because I'm just the boss, but they come to me for everything because I am approachable and I listen to people and I try to help them as best I can. This guy does not sound like that.
No.
Now, the problem is what the reason why I brought up all that other stuff about like I'm having a hard time believing all this stuff is that the problem is when you have somebody who's too soft, too much of a pussy, that someone says, "Hey, Johnson, can you please do your job? You got half an hour before we close up for the day." That guy is going to start complaining that they're being abusive to him. The problem with that is that when there are legitimate cases, they get convoluted in the mix with all these illegitimate cases, right? Where someone got their feelings hurt.
Hey, Mag. You know what they used to call crunch when I was growing up?
Yeah.
Overtime.
Actually, you know what crunch is in my line of business? Every day. It's just that's the way it is. And you know what? A lot of companies do that. Okay, a lot of companies do. I mean, you just work to get the job done. It's about getting the job done. Yeah, you don't have to be in an abusive situation. I'm just saying, yeah, you're right. You're right, Everborn. Okay, it's overtime. You want to get the stuff done. You got to get the job done or whatever else, right? I'm not, and like I said, if you want to move away from it, that's fine. But that brings up a whole other conversation too. You guys talked about actually Everborn. You were the one who clipped Jez. People bitched about Naughty Dog and the Sony companies with the crunch and all this and that, whatever. And then the games came out and they celebrated. All of a sudden, Microsoft takes away the crunch and allows them to take as much time as they need to make the games. Now everybody's bitching that where are the games? So, like, what do you want?
Yeah, so definitely an industry double standard for sure.
There's a double standard across the board. So anyways, the last thing I was going to say, sorry, before I move on, because I get very passionate about this stuff. Like I said, the illegitimate cases where people are just crybabies, okay? The problem with that is that when there's a legitimate case of abuse or racism or whatever, or sexism, okay, it gets lost in the mix. And the problem is those people who are crybabies are ruining it for the actual victims out there. And I think that Moon Studios are one of those victims. I think that Activision, we know as a fact that Activision are one of those places of actual, toxic workplaces and so on and so forth. Okay, we know those things. And so the problem is when you have all these other people, the thing is when you cry wolf too many times, the thing is if you do have a legitimate reason, and that's why you hear these horrible stories about women coming forward saying, I've been talking to HR for 3 years about this. The reason why they do is because she's not the only one that comes forward. You've got 100 people who may have similar complaints or whatever, and I bet you half of them are bogus. And that's the problem. They have to try and weed through the bogus ones, people looking for easy payouts, people looking to scam the company so they can sit on their ass and get paid, you know what I'm saying, for suing and stuff like that. Trust me, there are a lot of scam artists out there. You know how many people you see like walk into work and they go, whoa, and they slip and they drop a shelf on themselves and they go on unemployment for the rest of their lives? Okay? They do it all the time. There are scam artists out there everywhere. So the problem is when there is a legitimate case, that's the problem. The problem is those people get lost by the bogus people. So that's why I want to sit back. I want to see where this goes. But I mean, like the whole kill the Jews thing with Mueller, that's insanity. That guy, like right there, that should shut his ass down immediately for that. Okay, never mind all the other things. The other things, we got to see where it goes. But I would like to see if there is legitimacy behind this. I'd like to see these other news outlets and media sites go forward and deal with this. Talk about it. Bring it out. Expose it. What the hell is happening at Ubisoft? Like, what is going on over there? 2 years now? 3 years?
Yeah.
What is going on? Like, why is this not moving forward? I want answers to these questions. And I'm not going to bring my pitchfork and my torch until I know what's going on. And so for now, like I said, if you don't have a legitimate case, or if you're just being an a-hole, if you're just looking for a payout, or you're just looking for whatever, get out of the way for actual victims who actually need help in that industry.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a very specific case. I know you mentioned Ubisoft. Ubisoft is a monster all on its own. Unfortunately, there has not been any movement in that, better pay for workers, better treatment for workers. That has not, unfortunately, been fixed. That's a shame. That's a real shame what's going on at Ubisoft. That's why they're having so many internal problems. But Crispy, before I bring you in on the conversation, got to thank a few people. Drawn TJ drops the first super chat of the night and says, "Hi, Boom and panel." Drops a $5 super chat. And we also have Sith Lord, good friend, generous friend of the program. He drops a $5 super chat and says, "Hi, Boom and crew. I don't like this story, but people have to hear about it so it can be stopped." Crispy, you hear in the comments of Mahler, who is the founder and the head of Moon Studios. He specifically went out of his way not to be published by Microsoft on the third game because, in his opinion, Microsoft needs to have more guts, and he wants his game played by as many people as possible, and that's fine. I can't argue that. You want people to experience your game. But after hearing what he had to say, after this damning report, do you think that his next game, the publisher that has signed on to do so, might be in jeopardy?
I look at this like, Mag, you really you knocked it out of the park in ways, and I agree with you in certain aspects. It's one thing to look at somebody and say they just said that. It's another thing to look at how they were brought up. And for those horrible comments, okay, I believe his parents, somebody has something to do with that. You form your own opinions over time as a human being. So you look at somebody and you say, okay, how were they formed? Well, generally it is formed by your parents. Am I wrong?
Yep.
Anybody?
Yeah, you're a product of your environment, right?
Your environment is a part of what those words are absolutely ridiculous. And the one thing I look at is you go and say, well, it was a corporate email. So imagine me being a manager. I'm a manager of one of the most successful meat departments in my entire company, by the way. And I go and put something like that out there. No, this is a God complex. Okay. This man thinks there is not one wrong thing he could say. But what he doesn't realize is that how are you going to acquire more talent to do your next game if you're going to act like such a childish and uninformed individual? And not only that, you're going to sit there and act like it's okay and not step down and not be this is Bobby Kotick as well. Same thing. Okay.
That's why he's
We're
gone
not-
as soon as Microsoft finishes the deal.
Dude, I'm telling you, Microsoft has already been through this. A lot of people don't realize we're going back almost 20 years.
Yep.
Microsoft had all this shit come out, and they established certain parameters to make inclusiveness way before even the U.S. government passed the affirmative action law. A lot of people don't know what that is, but it's inclusiveness, okay? Color of skin doesn't matter. It's about your work ethic, okay? It doesn't matter what nationality, what religion you have. It doesn't matter, okay? And that's where we're at the point where I agree with Mac, and I say there's a lot of younger individuals that you go and kind of give them a little, gravitas to yourself and be like, hey, you need to do this. And they go and say, well, I'm just not going to come in tomorrow. And that's what you get. It really is. But at the same time, that's not the same as what this dude is talking like. This dude is acting like he is the greatest thing in the entire universe and nobody else can touch him. And the worst part is he's putting it right there out in the open.
Yeah, he did it. He did it across company chat lines, so everyone in the company had access to what he was saying. He wasn't even trying to hide it.
It's insane.
So here's the way. Okay, let's say I was the CEO of Moonstone. I'd be like, hey, we have come out with some really great games. You guys are not hitting our schedules right now. I understand we got COVID, but we have already done this. We have been across the world forever. Why in God's name are we at this point where we're kind of feeling like we need to crunch? There's no reason for it.
Yep.
We're just not putting enough effort in. And this is coming from the CEO. You don't have to do much more. You know what I'm saying? Just say, hey, we need to focus. Basically, it's very simple. Sometimes you got to lift people up a little. I know we're working hard, but at the same time, it's not the same. And we've been doing this from the article that Boom brought out. Okay, so why does it turn into like, let's just send the whole company a bunch of racist and unethical and completely asinine bullshit? It makes absolutely no sense. And the man, he shouldn't be running the studio. And I'll tell you right now, I ain't gonna. That game's not gonna come out. That's the way I look at it at this point.
I put it to this way: if you are, again, Microsoft published the first two, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, the sequel, which obviously were beautiful games. What's interesting
They
is
were great
how
games.
how
Let's
they
not
told.
deny that.
Yeah, no, they were great games. And what's interesting is how they told this very emotional story, and hearing that this is actually going on within the workplace is troubling for sure. But let's bring in Everborn Saga. Everborn, this is a situation that I'm very happy to talk about, to open up the show. I know we may not have a lot of viewers here that want to hear this, but I feel that it's important to have this conversation, because we're probably the only podcast that's going to talk about this. If it's not if it's not someone else that's already on this panel that decides that they want to take this in another direction or take it further. What are your thoughts on these current allegations going on at Moon Studios?
So I think Mag hit the nail on the head here, and I think I think this kind of thing happens across the board, meaning if it hasn't happened at your favorite publisher or studio, it's probably just because you haven't heard about it, not necessarily that it hasn't happened, right? Because you got to remember, a lot of these places are run by people, and there's so many layers to this, right? So just to start, I know there's talk, this will be a black eye on anyone who works with them. And should the studio, I don't know that I would say the studio should be shut down. I don't know that I would say no one should work with them, because there's still a lot of other people that work at that company. And even, when Jez was talking about this, he said that some of the people that had been spoken to said that they were at least trying to make steps to correct this. So if I'm not going to say, because of the crazy things that happened at Activision, that I'm not gonna play any Activision games, if I'm not saying that, I don't think I should say that I don't want Moon Studios to exist anymore. That doesn't mean you don't want to correct these problems. And the other issue is, what is the context? And again, there's no reason to say what was said, right? But what is the context in which some of these allegations are happening? And again, I'm not speaking to particulars of this case because I was not there, but just to add on to Mag's point, there are times when people tell off-color jokes, and they're not meant in a malicious way, but people's feelings inadvertently get hurt. And it can be reported in a certain way that sounds way worse than the context of what happened. Again, I'm not saying that that's what's happened here, but I'm just saying you have to weigh any of these situations and articles that you read with that sort of grain of salt, right? So that's a part of it. So I don't think Moon Studios should be shut down. Whoever they're working with now,
Private Division is the one that's going to publish.
Right.
Who wrote that? It's Live Supremacy in the chat said Moon Studios' next game is an action RPG and will be published by Private Division. Thanks for the info, brother.
Right. Is and Risk It for the name of the company?
The publisher.
The publishing.
Oh, the publisher. Okay, sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Risk It for the Biscuit in the chat says, is it possible Moon is able to produce greatness, because Ori is greatness, without that environment? And again, that is an interesting question, right? So we do want an inclusive work environment. We do want an environment that balances work, home life, and we do want one that is not toxic and having people, you know what I mean, in these stressful situations. You want that. That's great. That's what we strive for. But there is a balance between, hey, we have high expectations because much is expected of us, and it's going to take not your average Joe to work here to be able to handle that level of pressure. That is a thing. And I have worked at a lot of very large companies, and there you can tell when you're on a team that is milquetoast versus a team that expects great things. And sometimes, there's, again, I'm not speaking to the language that was used, and I don't know what this employee went through. And but what I am saying is, to Risket's question and to the point Mag was making, you have to, and to the point Jez was making over the weekend, where do we draw that line of expectations versus expectations of a product versus what is required to create that product, and the time it takes to do that. So if there are deadlines to be hit, like I said, working at a bunch of companies that develop software, when you're on a team that is like, and you're on a Scrum team where they're like, every idea matters, and you want to take time to deliver this thing, and it's fine, everything's fine, don't worry about it, and then you end up missing dates, you end up losing money, projects get canceled because no one is willing to step forward and kind of be that leader and say, hey, you motherfuckers. That's the only curse. That's our PG-13. I'm sorry. But hey, you mother effers, we have to ship something. We have to put this thing out.
Yeah.
Right? So the question is, what are the examples that we've had of so-called greatness where people didn't have to put in extra time and effort, and there were high standards where you can't just sort of everybody's all smiling with each other.
Well, you know what? Let me just, to that point, and to risk it for the biscuit, thanks for being here and asking a very important question. I have 2 more paragraphs I want to read from the report. And it says this: the developers took pride in their work, and they loved watching the fan reactions when the game shipped. But many found themselves wondering if the results were worth it. And this is a comment from one of the people that are currently working for the company, but wanted to remain nameless. And he say this: we really created something special. And I know the only way I was able to reconcile it was I was able to watch people on Twitch and watch other people get moved by it. And that was actually part of my healing process, because maybe my suffering was worth it because other people felt something. In the end, I mean, so many of us were burned out.
Hey, Boom, can I just add something? I gave this to my kid to play, and in the opening of the Blind Forest, I would literally watch my kid cry. Right?
It's an emotional opening story. It's yeah.
Right. And so they did do something special. So again, I just think that there needs to be a balance. You need to treat people like humans, but there is something to having great expectations and not accepting anything. So the question is, if we're saying best idea wins, what if you didn't actually have the best idea?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily you're being shut down. It is we are trying to create excellence, right? And I don't have this answer, because it's everything is situational, and it's about finding a balance between work life and treating people humanely. But when you're creating great things, sometimes it does become challenging, and it does become it can be soul crushing to make something great. And any artist will tell you that.
Yes,
right.
100%. 100%. Yes.
So it's hard, but I say they need to get better about it. And at the end of the day, I can say everything I just said. If you're on record saying what he said, look, you got caught. You broke the main rule. You got caught. There's an article out right now. So your intentions don't even matter. You shouldn't have got caught holding the nutsack, right? So I get pause. But again,
what the hell?
You're on record, you're saying it, and you know what I mean? There's certain things, and I'm sure everyone here on this panel and everyone listening has made off-color jokes, right? Now,
Talking about.
Yeah, of course you don't, right? But I'm sure everyone has. The question is, have you done it in an official setting?
Never.
Have you done it on a public channel? And if you were dumb enough to do that, then you need to face whatever consequences you need to face, because you broke the main rule. You got caught.
That's what I was saying. This Everborn is it's all about social and public responsibility. When you take a job and you're in charge, it's not only just watch your mouth, because that's not good enough. It's also you have to be an example. You have to lead by example, not through just your work, but you have to lead by example by your words and the way that you support and treat other people. Right. You know what I mean? So it's all about that. But like I said, there's a fine balance between that, what is real and what is legitimate, what's illegitimate. And the problem is, like, for example, Boom, I wanted to ask a question. Sorry, I'm not hijacking here. I just want to ask you a question. When you were just reading that last little bit, what I want to know, and again, this is I'm not belittling anything. I'm just asking a question because I like to be well informed. When someone says something like, I was watching the Twitch streams or whatever to begin the healing process, what the hell did they do to this person that they had to go through a healing process?
You know what?
I'm asking, and they're all working from home, which adds another layer to this.
Right. It's not like the guy's throwing coffee cups at you going, Johnson, goddammit, in my office in 5. You know what I mean? It's like they're talking to you over emails. What did they do that you needed to have a healing process? I'm starting to wonder if that's you that is not cut out for that job.
I will defend my people who work from home. I've been working from home for 13 years. Trust me. Some people know how to do it right. Some people know how to do it wrong.
Asante, that's not what that's not what I meant. It's not about like belittling the situation because of working at home. Most of the people that I know, actually, funny enough, since the pandemic, they're now permanently working from home. So they deal with the same pressures and everything else, right? But I'm saying, when you say things like that, it sounds
hyperbolic,
over the top.
Yeah, I understand.
Like I'm trying to understand what happened, and if it was that bad, why aren't you calling the police or a lawyer or something? Why, like that this gets to VentureBeat, not a lawyer or the cops? If it's to a point where it's actually causing you that much mental distress, you can call the police for those things.
Well, okay, let me push back.
I'm asking
slightly on that, Mag. I don't think you can. Like, there's people that work at Amazon that have to pee in a bottle to make, to make the times that Amazon puts on.
And that's in the United States. There are things outside the United States that's even worse. They have no protections.
This is hard for me to fathom too, because I manage a team of offshore people at work, right? But for the Everborn saga, the entire team is remote, right? But there's artists all over the world that are working on the books and that we do in the game we're working on. I don't know how I could make that. Maybe that's me, but I don't know how someone could feel like it's a toxic environment. I don't know. But again, that's my ignorance speaking, not necessarily a denial. I like working in person where you have to be in a meeting in front of people and them telling you these things. I don't know.
I'm just asking questions. Like,
a hard
this whole thing, I'm just asking questions. And like I said, I'm not trying to belittle that situation at all. Not at all. So I really don't want people to take anything that I said even earlier or right now out of context, or that I do not have the compassion, because 100% I do, because I treat my workers better than anybody else. And people will tell you that across the board. I am that guy that you can always go to, come see me, whatever, and I will bend over backwards, get my hands dirty, do whatever to help you out.
Pause.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Even if the dishwasher's got a problem, I'll be in there with a dress. If I'm not cooking, I'll be there in a dress shirt with my head inside the machine, fixing it for the guy, and I'll be like, here, let me show you how to do this in case it happens again. Nobody else does things like that. But anyway, the thing is, I'm asking questions because it just seems like people throw these things out there and then you don't get the details. And then that's where I'm like, what exactly is happening here? If you want me to support you and believe 100% and be behind you, then I need to know. I don't just read a headline. You see, that's a danger these days. And you guys all know this. Everybody in the chat knows this. Everybody in the panel knows this. That a lot of people react to a headline and don't read the damn article. Right?
It's definitely true.
And you know what I'm saying? And the problem, and that's my problem. I am a critical thinker. So I look at the headline and go, what the hell is this all about? Isn't that weird? I go and read the damn article instead of just going huh, buh, 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 in the comment section. And then you always get the one guy who comes in the comment and goes, "You didn't read the article, did you?"
Yeah.
right.
So,
Well, listen,
so let me throw one aspect of this at you guys, and I completely see and agree with both all the avenues that you guys are approaching this with. The only place that I would go here with this is like, and he's not the only one. There have been many founder that came out with a great idea. What's his name? Palmer Luckey comes to mind. The dude who basically created the Oculus, right? There are people who create wonderful things. Then you want them to shut their mouth and go away and go into the lab and continue creating instead of speaking to human people, right? Because there are many people who know how to create, but not necessarily communicate effectively with other humans at a human level, because they're probably either that smart that they lose something in the human communication realm or something like that.
Yeah.
It seems to me, and to your point, Mag, it's the pendulum has swung in such a weird way that you look at someone wrong and you're looking at a lawsuit, right? That's the world we live in today. That is not
precedent.
that is not to be discounted, right? So if you are a person who has come up with, if you are a founder status guy, right, isn't it in your best interest to be a bit more thoughtful in your approach, knowing 100%. That you live in this pendulum swung this way kind of world, right? We all live with it. Yeah, no, 100%.
And I'm not disingenuous when I do act like that. I'm not doing it because I'm afraid that someone's going to be whatever.
Oh no,
that's
of course
my
not.
character as a
You just have to read the room. That's all there is.
Yeah,
read the room. Wherever room you happen to be in, understand that, especially if you're the boss, right? Some days you're in the trenches with the rest of your crew like you're one of the gang, but at the end of the day, you're the boss. Right? So anybody else can say something ridiculous and get away with it. You say something, it might be misconstrued as something else because you control HR.
And Kay, to your point, I wonder, right? Like, I have to question the leadership of anyone who is dumb enough to get caught in an official channel saying something that ridiculous.
That is hubris. Like, look at this dude. Look at how many times you've heard him in a news story. It's always apologizing for saying something stupid.
Yes.
It's not apologizing for saying something stupid. It always starts, middle, ends with him saying something stupid. He
suffers from foot and mouth disease.
You know, he always does. Yeah. So because of that,
before we say, should we shut down the studio or should Private Division can the project, should that guy be at the top? I think is the first
well, he's
question.
the founder of the studio, so I don't know how you remove him.
This is one of those Palmer Luckey.
This is one of those situations.
Zuckerberg type situations.
He's the founder of the studio, so I don't know. I could tell you this right now.
And it's not a publicly traded company,
right.
So they don't have board members that can oust him, none of that stuff.
And also, and from what we understand, they are now luring in new talent with big upfront bonuses, trying to get people to work for the company after this was out there. This was a part of the report. But listen, we got to move on, folks. We're 1 hour and 2 minutes into the podcast. I know that we have well over 200 people here. I mean, if you're not getting your notifications, because I know a lot of people coming in late, man, let YouTube know, because I've already tried to do that. And 10K, you think that you would be put into some sort of a higher listening channel? No, they can care less as long as they get that 30%. And it's very unfortunate because it seems like the notifications are not going out once again. But I do want to move on. Now, this is a bit of a double topic, and I see people talking about it in the chat. And trust me, we are not going to shy away from talking about a new studio joining PlayStation or Sony Interactive Entertainment. They announced today that they have acquired Jade Raymond's new studio that was announced to be working exclusively with PlayStation. Her studio is called Haven. And from what we understand, there are currently about 60 developers there. And if you don't know who Jade Raymond is, she is the veteran producer behind Assassin's Creed and most recently EA Motive Studio, before she left that position to go to Stadia, where obviously we know what happened with Stadia, and they decided to close their internal games development team, and she left, and along with 5 co-founders of Haven, started the studio, and that studio has now become a part of PlayStation Studios. I mean, it's a great get for PlayStation. Overall, Jade Raymond is an incredible talent within the industry. But what is, and we're gonna, we'll get all the panel's opinion about what this means. I know there's been a lot of talk within the community. How come Sony is allowed to buy up all these studios when Microsoft seems to be fisticuffed, if you will, with this deal, this near $70 billion deal with Activision Blizzard? And I think that the reason why it is it's really comparing apples to bananas. Yes, $3.6 billion for Bungie is a lot of money, and they did buy 5 studios last year. This would be the 7th studio acquisition within 18 months for SIE. And when you look overall at the, we don't have the price. According to VGC, where I pulled this article, there is no price on how much that studio was purchased for, but we do know that it's confirmed. This announcement, again, it's just, a regular Monday. It's a big announcement for PlayStation, and I'm very excited to see what Jade Raymond and her team does bring as exclusive content to PS5 moving forward. We're starting to wonder whether or not this is a smokescreen. And we bring up Gran Turismo 7 because as of tonight's show, thanks to MAG, it is currently noted that PlayStation, their latest game known as Gran Turismo 7, has the lowest Metacritic score in the history of the 27 years that they have been available to rate games. I had the story from VGC at 2.5, while I was informed by MAG that has now dropped to 1.9. Which is unbelievable. Now, I know that there's going to be people in the chat that say, well, just a second, Boom, that could be just a bunch of Xbots looking to dump on this game. And I beg to differ, because I think a lot of the criticism is from their own fans, and there's right for the criticism. Now, I want to bring in Wandering Dutch first, because Dutch, you dropped a particular YouTuber who has nearly 700,000 subscribers. He is known as one of the premier racing dudes on the content creation circuit, and he had a lot to say about what's going on regarding microtransactions. So, Dutch, why don't you do me a favor, brother? Take it away, and please, by all means, read the tweet from this content creator.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm definitely unmuted here, aren't I? Yes.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, so it's obviously what we've seen it since launch. They didn't announce the microtransactions until it went live. Then it went live, and obviously the microtransactions were way over the top, because that were $4 are now $40, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, over recent days, they've had massive downtime. Almost, I think it was 2 days. Almost, it was like 48 hours or something ridiculous. Downtime. At which point they, of course, brought the servers back up again, and there was a number of changes that took effect. One of them was the fact that they had reduced the amount of credits you can actually earn for the vast majority of races, and only upped the credits on 2 major races, long distance endurance races. The rest of them had come down in earnings, and also reduced the earnings on what you would class as custom races. So you can't grind a certain track over and over again in order to get it, or grind a certain track for a certain amount of laps in order to get a lot of cash. So they've reduced that. But then also on top of that, introduced 18 million credit cars. And this is where Don Juan Song's tweet comes into play. And he's non-biased. He just loves racing games across the board. This guy creates absolutely amazing content, whether that's on GT, on Dirt, on Forza Motorsport, Forza Horizon, Drive Club, whatever the racing sim is, he plays them all, and makes awesome content for them all. But his tweet specifically states here, and this is why we're kind of getting into it a little bit more as well, is Gran Turismo 7, what on earth are you smoking? You've got absolutely hounded online for reducing race earnings, and you decided to bring 2 cars worth 18 million credits each. That equates to £288 worth of microtransactions, or completing the best race 663 times. WTF? I'll put it into another perspective. For the same price it would cost to buy these 2 cars with GT7 and microtransactions, I could buy an Xbox Series S and Game Pass Ultimate and still have change left over.
Wow.
Yeah. Next one after that followed up. The prices wouldn't be a problem if, let's say, we didn't have to repeat the same race 600 times. You desperately need to fix your in-game economy. There was another comment as well underneath that stated something along those lines, essentially very similar, because I commented on it as well. But another guy kind of mentioned that also includes the fact that you need to be that particular 600 times requires you to be first place, and that also ensures that you are also getting the 50% clean racing bonus as well.
Wow.
So it's physically impossible unless you're literally playing nothing other than that. The game has turned into an absolute grind unless you spend money on it. It's essentially gearing you to spend money on it because you're going to be spending the best part of, like you mentioned there, 663 races to unlock 1 legendary car. That's obscene. There is no other way to do it other than buy it or race 600 times.
Yeah.
Who's got the time?
It's funny. You're laughing, but this is a sad reality of a game and here's the thing. Could you imagine, and I asked this, I'll get the rest of the panel's opinion on this. Could you imagine if you are a reviewer for one of these big publications? I'm talking about Game Rant, pick your favorite place, and you gave this game a 10. Could you imagine if you are sitting at home seeing this ridiculousness? See, me, because I'm honest and I don't play the console war, I give it to Microsoft the same way I give it to Sony and Nintendo. It's across the board. We don't like using negativity on this show. We're all about positivity. But when there's something negative, we have to address it. I would go back and I would deduct points, and I would be like, edit.
Well, Boom. I want to add to that as well, because one thing that people didn't know, and of course it hasn't an always online DRM thing built into it, but I don't think anybody realized just the severity of it's always online. So unlike Forza Horizon, where it has an offline mode, and if you're offline, you can still play. You can still do the races. You can still enjoy everything the game has to offer other than online cooperative gameplay or playing online in drivatars and all that malark. This, however, when it went offline, it was nigh on unplayable.
Yeah.
So when it was having its downtime, there was only a handful of races you could actually do, and other than that, nothing could be done. The always online DRM had literally made the game unplayable, so it was useless for people that were trying to play it. That's why people were complaining so much. And then when they come back online, you've got this nonsense. Like, I don't understand where they got the audacity to put these levels of microtransactions in for the game in the first place. And secondarily, then on the backlash of the microtransactions, decide, you know what it is? We're going to reduce the amount of earnings you can have as well, just to force you to have to pay this if you don't have the time to put in the 600 races. I'm still baffled by the sheer volume you've got to get to unlock a legendary car. Now, if you go into the store and have a look at any other legendary car, even if you're halving that for a car worth half that value, so i.e. a top-tier Ferrari or something like that, worth about 7 million, you're still looking at 300 races of the highest earning race in the game. It's not just any race. It's the top race, the highest earning race in the game that you have to do 600 times. It's obscene. It's just baffling. I just don't. If that is what we've got to
are you playing other people?
Either? No, that's just regular arcade. That's just the career.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's just the career. That's bonkers. Having to do and it's not just that you can do every race and change it up. That's based on the biggest earning race, i.e. the same race 600 times, because that earns the most. If you do every other one, you're not going to get there quick enough. It just
You know what's
defies belief.
interesting? I went back to Gran Turismo, to their official Twitter account to see, regarding the extended server maintenance, which they had. Do you know that they did not offer players anything? I'm looking to see
They
if there
didn't
was
even
like
announce it beforehand or afterwards, or even during its downtime. They didn't apologize. They didn't say,
Nope.
sorry, this is taking longer than usual. Sorry, this is like we've come across some error. Apparently, it was just a normal technical error, and they had come across some issues during it. But at no point over that 48 hours did they say anything about that or apologize.
It's greatness, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
It's
is.
greatness.
it is greatness. But listen, let's bring in Crispy.
Greatness ain't cheap.
And greatness ain't
It's
cheap.
like
That's right.
freedom. It costs $1.05.
Yeah. Crispy, let's bring you in on the conversation.
And Mag, I blame Canada.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Oh man.
Crispy, listen, the Jade Raymond story is important because it's another studio that I was gonna say Microsoft, that PlayStation or SIE has added 7 in the last 18 months. And like I said, they have been pushed into a corner where they could no longer sit idly by and watch places like Microsoft and like some of the other big people that are sucking up all the talent. So they're now getting in the business of acquisitions, and a lot of them have been smaller companies, but they're right for PlayStation. I think that the Jade Raymond one is a good one for them. There's no doubt about it. Though I find it very suspicious that when instead of addressing the elephant in the room as Gran Turismo 7, they don't seem to want to talk about it. And they did not offer any of their players any, bonuses like, hey, listen, here's a free $3 million car for us being down for nearly 48 hours, or, sorry, you couldn't play the game for 2 days. Here's 1 million credits. No, they come back with 2 $18 million cars. And in the process of this update, lowered the amount of credits you were getting per race, almost forcing you to buy DLC in the form of credits. What are your thoughts on this?
Let's reverse real quick. Haven Studio, Jade Raymond. Okay. Yeah. And you all could fact check me, by the way. Are you surprised that the company that bankrolled the entire development of that studio is buying them? Are you surprised at all?
No,
because
not at all.
Guess what? That came out and it started. And let's bring up this point. Boom. The initiative started with Daryl Gallagher, correct?
Yep.
Well, guess what? That was at least shown to be bankrolled by Xbox. They developed the studio. Guess what? Jade Raymond started out and it was out there, and you can go and find it, that it was bankrolled by PlayStation. And all of a sudden they acquired that studio after what? Now there's an extra 30 people there. Sounds eerily familiar, if I'm not mistaken. Banking on one single person. Yeah. Just saying. So when you make it a big deal, I think you need to realize that number one, she's making a games as a service game. That is number one.
Yeah.
Number 100%. Number two, she already was chilling with Sony saying, hey, we're going to do this. And maybe she did a proof of concept, something. And bam, on top of that, the backlash that they've gotten recently between not just the women, calling them out, but also, Gran Turismo getting the worst score in Sony history. And it's approaching for user score one of the worst in gaming history, especially in the difference between the actual score from Metacritic and the user score. It is bar none one of the worst. Even Halo Infinite got much better, and people are a little salty that Co-op and Forge aren't out there. So I don't know, man.
Crispy.
Here's something that's interesting, guys. Before you read that, let me just read the story from VGC. At this time of publishing, the PlayStation 4 and PS5 racer has a user score of 1.9 out of 10, which appears to put it below every game in Metacritic's 27-year history of tracking games from PlayStation Studios, Sony Interactive Entertainment, SCEA, or SCCE.
And,
I swear to God, I didn't look at that, by the way. I didn't.
One more note about that. Of the 87 meta it's sitting on, that is reviewed by 180 critics. It's sitting at 87, right? 1.9 user score, reviewed by 6,078 people.
Yeah.
So that tells you people are motivated.
So hypothetically, you could knock out 1,000 of just fanboyism. Okay, we could just knock that out.
I'd even say, you know what? Take a third. Let's go high here.
Still think about that.
Let's say that 2,000 people wipe them off because they're just being fanboys.
Yeah,
4,000 plus people. That's got to say something about the game,
dude. But that's the problem. You could say it's fanboys, but from people that actually love Xbox, but also are not game haters or plastic box haters that just love what Xbox. Xbox gives you some superb multiplayer exclusives. You cannot play anywhere but PC, Xbox, or xCloud. That is it. And they give you superb. And at times, I've seen people just playing constantly games on their phone or something. I mean, it's getting to the point where PlayStation is dragging so far behind that you don't see them doing anything about Gran Turismo. You see them doing nothing. This is a 20+ year. This is older than Halo, people. Older than Halo. And they can't even come damn close to trying to make it right. They are sitting there idle, just saying nothing, and they are doing nothing. And you have some people that I still respect on Twitter that are like, oh, it's not that bad. Well, really? Because did you play the older games? Because I'm sorry, that is not the case. And on top of that, I see 0 people saying, hey, I'm playing with my buddy today. This is not Forza Horizon 5. I'm going to tell you right now, Forza Motorsport might come out this year because Xbox is like, yo, even halfway through what we wanted to do, you about to see, bro. You about to see what's going to happen because we just going to smash it. Dude, this is the first simulation racer in how long? Everybody think about that. First true simulation random car racer. That's what I should say. Not F1, not NASCAR. I'm talking like full random car simulation racer. And it is getting a 1.9.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's saying something.
I'll tell you right now, I see a lot of PlayStation dude like, yo, I purchased this and I'm mad. And you know what? If they give them that score, well, I agree with them. I'm sorry. But I ain't touching it, and you're not making me feel confident that you are going to take my $70 and give me a game that I don't have to spend a damn dime after. Because this isn't Game Pass. This is not free to play. This is, hey, here you go. You buy this game. Oh, snap, I got to do all this. Or okay, so let's spend 50 hours to try to get one car, or just buy it. Yeah. I don't know. That's a cash grab. I'm sorry.
Yeah, again, and it's egregious. I've said this before. This is not a conversation that we're just piling on the rabbit. If you're a Bugs Bunny fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is actual 1.9 user score. And like I said, I personally, for me, as a fan of Jade, Raymond, I think that is a great get for PlayStation Studios. But this is obviously a smokescreen to move the shade away from it. And what's interesting, and I think very disappointing, is when you have people like this YouTuber who has nearly 700,000 subscribers coming out and not just doing one post, doing multiple posts. But we also have a friend of the community who is a big his whole channel is based on racing, and that's Fuzzy Belvedere. And he has been up close and personal on the socials talking about this, of his disappointment and disgust, to be quite honest. Kay Asante, let's bring you in on the conversation. Again, big news for PlayStation or SIE. They get a new studio. Again, it's the 7th one in the last 18 months, which is great. They obviously see that they have needs and they are addressing it. That is awesome. But I honestly believe that, like we've seen many companies do in the past, they try to cover up bad news with good news. I'm not buying it. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I do see the correlation a bit there. The timing is probably a little bit suspect. I mean, for the Haven Studios, I think my thoughts on that are Jade Raymond. Clearly she's still got it. People, her claim to fame used to be Assassin's Creed, and there was a narrative forming about she goes here, it doesn't work out. It hadn't worked out for her for a bit now, including with Stadia and a few others. So it's good that she's, whatever she showed them, clearly she had enough juice to where they were excited about it enough to where they purchased the studio. These days, with the way that Microsoft is making moves in the environment, it makes sense for PlayStation to see something they like and purchase it right away. The days of Square Enix, the cow, the milk is free, so we're not paying for the cow stuff. That those days seem to be more and more becoming over, right? Because you never know when the big guys, and by the big guys I mean your Amazons, all these other people, could potentially come in and change your equation. They've learned that the hard way, PlayStation has. So they will it be good for PlayStation? Will this be a W for them ultimately? Who knows?
Only
the
time is
people
going
who
to
saw,
tell for sure.
Yeah, time will tell. The people who saw the demo or the vertical slice or whatever that Jade had to show them, they're the ones that know that, hey, we have something special here. So hopefully we get to see that soon. Now, as far as, is this a smokescreen? I mean, just as much as you could say that as soon as the Crystal Dynamic conversation came out, then out of nowhere, boom, Tunic has been released on Game Pass, and the conversation changed. You know what I mean? Hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they say. Seems similarly in tactic here. We hear this stuff going on about what do you call it? SIE not being particularly the best place to work, and some people having issues, and PlayStation tried to dumb it down, and they doubled down on it. And then there's this. You hear GT7 coming out, and like we're saying, it is reviewing where it matters with the people pretty darn badly. Like, it really is. It's pretty bad. It seems like they have enjoyed that greatness for so long that now they make decisions based on, we'll tell them what they need. We'll give them what they want, and they'll be fine because we're great. We do great things. Every time we do it, it's great. And I mean, clearly their track record precedes them, right? Because mostly they're right. They're usually great. No matter what game they release, their hit to miss ratio is pretty minuscule, which is a good thing, right? I'm looking at you there, All Stars, or whatever the hell that name of that game was. And whether it be first or third party, more often than not, when they assign themselves to something, or when they get your what do you call it, when they do the deal for marketing rights or something like that, usually those are games that they themselves have recognized that reaches their quote unquote PlayStation standard of quality, right? So, most likely that's what they've seen with Haven, so that's great, right? But on the same token, with GT7, it looks like there's a bit of hubris there, I think, a little bit, where it's like we are racing. We created this genre. Sure you did with with Gran Turismo originally, right?
Yep.
They are the standard by which Forza and Drive Club and all these other racers come and try to meet.
Name it, yeah.
Right? Yes. But if you think you're Tomb Raider forever, eventually Uncharted comes and eats your lunch. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what looks like it's happening here. And instead of humbling yourself to capture your crown, they're going, screw it. They'll pay more for our cars. They'll grind longer for our races.
For those
I don't think that the
2017.
consumers are agreeing with you on that one. You know what I'm saying?
And it's also interesting, actually, just Chris Baum just said it. Has anyone that had paid attention the fact that the oldest car, the newest car that they have in the game,
it's 2017.
2017, which is Wow.
That tells you that seems to suggest that it seems to suggest that they finished like adding new content to the game a while back and didn't update it in time in order to be up to date with the times, you know? That's absurd. I mean, that's not to say that a game is made in 2017 so you have to be bad. It could be great, you know, it could be great. But that is just it's like watching a movie where everybody's cell phone is that big old honking thing that you attach to your face. It definitely points to when you were made. You know what I'm saying? It clowns you. They definitely should have known better than to just leave it at that. I mean, I just think it's very unfortunate because this is a storied franchise. Say what you will, whether you're a fan of racers or not. Back in the day, what were the racers or what were the games, period, that you were talking about when you're talking about?
Grand Turismo was certainly one of them.
Grand Turismo and Need for
was
Speed
definitely part of the conversation. Yeah, for sure.
Need for Speed was the arcade racer. I mean, everybody you could say whatnot, but Need for Speed Carbon, I mean, they had the full-on cinematics. Like,
I played almost every one of those Need for Speeds, yes. I've always been a Forza Horizon guy
Most
myself.
Wanted is still probably my favorite and the one that is the best in the series.
Yeah. So long story short, I just feel like PlayStation should spend a bit more time respecting the name, put some respect on the name of your own IP instead of dragging it through the mud, kind of like what they're doing now. The GT deserves to be that marquee title it always has been, right? Even the oldest ones which were pixely as heck, they still played with the level of quality that others just couldn't match. And now it looks like instead of moving forward and pushing the boundaries like competitors are doing, instead they're going, well, we have all this political capital. Let's spend some and make some money instead, which is kind of unfortunate in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Mag, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Before I do, let me catch up with some of the super chats. We have Risk It for the Biscuit drops an $8 super chat and says, I've been in teams that excel most of my life. We almost always broke the rules and the environments. We were almost always toxic. I'm not saying it's right. I mean, I hear what you're saying, brother. I mean, listen, again, when you got to roll up the sleeves, some people just don't understand that, being a part of a team requires sacrifice, but we also have to take into account that abuse is not the answer. And unfortunately, like Keasante had mentioned earlier, Thomas Waller has found himself more times than not apologizing for his stupidity and public stupidity, no less. But thank you for the super chat, brother. Thank you for being here. Splendiferous drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, would you feel the same way if it was your kid, Mag?
Don't even know what that means because I didn't say anything derogatory or whatever about that situation. I was asking questions as to the details of these alleged reports. The alleged. So if I'm asking details, but if you want me to just play the game and just say, let's say it was, then I would expect it to be dealt with appropriately and dealt with smartly and dealt with it through HR. And then, of course, beyond that, if it doesn't get dealt with, you deal with lawyers and police and you have it sorted. But I like to ask questions. By the way, someone in the chat, I don't know who it was, said they actually just read the report. It's a 40-minute read, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's a very, very long read. I read the whole report. Again, I didn't include everything that was detailed because this is only a 2-hour podcast. So
yes. Well, apparently the majority from the guys who read it, there's a bunch of them in the chat said they were reading it and they said that the majority of the claims were harsh language. So I would like, you know what I mean? Like how vague does it get, right?
Yeah.
So you have people, that's why I was saying what I was saying. I don't want to drag this out again, but I'm saying when there are legitimate cases of abuse, sexism, racism, and all that stuff, I fear that they will get lost in the mix for someone who got their feelings hurt. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
And very well could be. Again, at this point, I mean? Only time is going to tell. But again, that guy does not have a good track record. So that kind of puts him in a bit of a...
No. Yeah. He's an asshole.
Yeah, he kind of puts him in the outhouse, so to speak. But we have Isaac Gentry, who's been a member of the Double Barrel Gaming club, if you will, for 11 months. Says, hello all, just wanted to say thank you for the content and the positive community. Well, listen, it's our pleasure, brother, and thank you for supporting the channel through channel membership. Drawn TJ drops a $5 super chat and says, I was expecting more from Sony on Gran Turismo 7, especially against Forza Motorsport that's coming out. It's going to be a bloodbath. Indeed it is. There's no doubt about that.
Forget about Motorsport. Just look at Horizon 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's just night and day. I know one's an arcade racer versus a simulation racer, but by all rights, the sim should look better, and it actually doesn't. Sir X-Man drops a $2 super chat and says, $7 million car that would cost $80 in credit for Gran Turismo. That's just ridiculous. Elemental PO drops a $5 super chat and says, I agree. This Sony purchase news is definitely trying to cover up the Godfall Ultimate coming to Xbox Game Pass, which was announced. Which, again, remember, that was an exclusive that could only run on the PlayStation, and, well, it's coming to Game Pass. So there you go.
Now it's going to run on a VCR. Look at that.
And there you go. And Sir X-Man drops an additional $2 super chat. And thank you for the generosity, brother. He says, what if Xbox gives Forza for free, no Game Pass? Yeah, that's not going to happen. But you know,
I don't know.
I mean, listen.
Why though?
I'm sure they're going
microtransact. You can get away with it if it's free to play. I'm just saying.
I mean, that's what they're doing with Halo.
I mean, it's true. He's definitely onto something for sure. I don't think it would be free to play. I think that they spent a lot of money on the new engine and everything. So again,
probably because of licensed cars and whatnot.
Yeah, it's licensed music and cars. There's a lot of cost that goes into it. Versus, you know, they're gonna sell the game. People are gonna buy it. But let's get Everborn Saga in on the conversation. Everborn, what are your thoughts on the studio acquisition by SIE, and more importantly, what are your thoughts on the 1.9 user score for Gran Turismo?
All right, so a couple of things, and I'm mesmerized with this gameplay and that sword. That
I was about to say, your mimic is taking out fools left and right like this.
Where do you even get a mimic?
You know what it is? He's actually not a mimic.
I could walk you through it.
Who he is Banished Knight Oleg. He is OP ridiculous.
Damn, he just took one shot and it was one half of his entire enemies. Like,
he's what I say. When me and my mimic get our hands on you,
I saw your footage, Everborn. I was like, where do you even get it? But anyways, that's
we can't turn this to the Elden Ring podcast tonight.
No, we go again.
Bring up Elden Ring, it goes left. So I won't. I'll answer you that in the DM.
Okay, thank you.
So couple of things. I Boom, we spoke on the phone earlier, and I said, look, a perfect time when there's all of this GT7 controversy is to announce this Haven Studios, which we all expected, right? When it was first announced that they were working, they were forming a new studio, they were working exclusively with Sony. We even talked about it here on PTG. Will this lead to an acquisition? And it has. And there's questions that people have. Well, how can Sony do this while they're still trying to do the $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie? And there are certain rules with the FTC. You only have to consult them if the deal is greater than $100 million. Now, a 60-person studio that doesn't have any released games under their belt, I think maybe you could scoop them for less than 100 million. And maybe that's the reason you can see an acquisition of a smaller studio right next to the big Bungie acquisition that requires some review from, the different DOJ, FTC, whoever. So that's why it's happening. It's not like Sony gets a pass and Microsoft doesn't. They're dealing with different scales of magnitude, right? So that's that thing. And I do think this is probably a deal that was done a while ago, and they were just sort of saving it for when they had a bad news week, or when they wanted to, drop the hammer narrative wise. But I guess the bad news week came first, and now, nobody but us is talking about GT7. Now, as to GT7, I think, look, I've been people think that I'm joking, but I'm not. I don't care about the pricing, and I'll tell you why. They said they got it, right? This is the crowd, and we're watching them right now defending the pricing on these things. I'm you know, I'm in the Twitter streets, right? You know, I'm in the spaces and things, but we're watching a lot of these fans saying, you know, it's not as bad as you think. And people were saying that Hogue Law was spreading misinformation earlier today. You know, people are, because they have a predisposition of what sort of platform or brand that they prefer, they're using that as their guiding principle. So the same people that said support the devs and that are making excuses for these prices now, if Sony is going to charge you, or any company, let me not specifically list this as Sony, but any company is going to charge you what you will pay, right? And there's this big discussion right now about, you know, on top of the GT7 thing, there's a big $70 games are back in the discourse again, right? And a bunch of people are just defending that, you know, $70 is, you know, it's fine. If you don't like it, don't buy it. And people are saying these microtransactions aren't that bad. And I say, if they're fine with it, and if their customers are spending that kind of money, let them take all their money. They have these $4,000 PCs. They're telling you the pricing is fine. So those are their customers that they're going after. And I say, charge them all the money in the world.
Oh,
Why?
man.
Because they
Everyone.
got it.
You
right?
are being very, I mean, let's be honest, that's the damn truth. Like, if they want to pay for it, you're gonna pay for it. That's where I'm kind of like off put at this point, dude. Like, think about it. We have gotten trashed for games that literally you could have already in your library because you have Game Pass, or you could just download, and guess what? You get to play Halo multiplayer. And people are just trashing this for having microtransactions that give you zero advantage, by the way. A lot of people don't realize that. You get
Right. And
zero.
And that's what did they say, right? They said gaming is an expensive hobby. Okay, well, spend your money. I'm not buying that. You're not selling me a $50 car in GT7, but they said they got it, so let them buy it and charge them more. And here's the larger issue here, right? Because a lot of people are turning this conversation and they're trying to conflate this with sort of virtue signaling or console warring. Here's the problem with this, and I think it's of the same it's of a piece or with the $70 games discussion, right? It is that companies will charge what they can get away with, right? So when half of us, not because we think the price is fair, but because our guiding principle is not what's fair, it's what the company I like is doing, half of us are doing that. That sends the signal to all of these companies, not just Sony, not just Microsoft, EA, everybody. That sends the signal that, yes, we can charge them. We can raise the price on games. We can nickel and dime them with microtransactions. Yes, we can do that. You know why? Because they're not complaining and they're saying they're happy for it. And if you notice, right, when we get together as a community in one accord about some BS economics, it gets fixed post haste, right? It's addressed right away. What happened with the Horizon upgrade, right? What happened with the $10 Xbox Live increase? What happened with the PSP store?
Now we all went to one social media and we took the companies to task.
That's what happens when we get together instead of fighting each other over what's honestly, I already used my one curse today, so it's BS, right? When we speak in one accord, these companies listen, but we would rather fight with each other, and so now we have these higher prices. So that's what they want to pay. I don't have any sympathy for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I'm not paying it. You're not going to get me. And one other thing, I think that on the flip side of this, just to be devil's advocate, right? All the people that were, and this is funny too. So this is a double-edged devil's advocate, right? If I told people don't worry about the Halo progression, even though everybody complained about that and it was fixed because again, people got together. But if I tell you don't worry about $18 cat ears because you don't need them in Halo, it's hard for me to turn around and tell you you should be worried about car pricing in GT7. And the flip side of that is the same people that are defending these microtransactions right now for GT7 are the same people that were happy because it was Microsoft to say, oh, the progression system sucks and they're nickel and diming you with the purchases in Halo Infinite. But that only goes to show you that a lot of the discourse is not really about what it's about. It's about people looking for any opportunity to take who they view as the competition down a peg, right? So, and just wrapping up my thoughts on this, charge them more. I want to see a $500 car. That's what I want to see.
I mean, listen,
because they said they got it.
I can't argue with that, but we do
God.
have some breaking news that we're going to add a third topic.
Audible,
we only have
baby.
15 minutes of the show. This is breaking news. This comes way of Dina Bass.
Dina Bass.
Dina Bass. Thank you. She works at Bloomberg News Tech. She is a reporter. She is the Seattle bureau chief there, and she is reporting that some new information regarding the Microsoft and Activision situation. Well, according to her, and her report was only about 2 hours ago, both Microsoft and Activision have received a request from the FTC for additional information about their deal. According to the Activision filing, the request opens an in-depth antitrust review of the acquisition, and she says in quotes, to be clear, this was expected. It is a huge deal. But she then follows.
Boom. This is what, if you follow Hogue Law, this is what he talked about when he said it's going to get a second look.
It's going to get a second look, correct?
This is the second look.
And this, and what's interesting is she does reply to several people that were asking big questions. She says, to clarify, because my use of synonyms here was confusing to some, it was expected that the FTC would open an in-depth review because Microsoft's acquisition of Activision is for $69 billion. It is a huge deal, meaning the acquisition is very
mandates
large.
That they take a second look at it. The money alone mandates that.
That is correct. So let's get everyone's opinion, but I want to go to Mag first on this because obviously he's got to bounce at 9 o'clock, and I don't want to hold him up because he does have an important call. Mag, Hogue Law, who's a friend of this program, friend of this community, and who's been on my show in the last couple of weeks, I think 2 times. I'm going to see if I can get him to come back and talk about this specifically this Friday on Breakfast with Boom, where Crispy Bomb is a panel member, and I'm looking to get his take on it. For you, looking at this deal, are you concerned that this deal doesn't get done?
No, I'm not. This is going through first of all, they want this to happen. It's going to happen. The thing is, at the end of the day, Microsoft has an army of lawyers. Now, I am not a lawyer, okay? I'm definitely not Hogue Law. He would know in much more detail than I could, but I could do broad strokes when it comes to this stuff. Now, the thing is, they've got an army of lawyers. That army of lawyers obviously spoke to them, had meetings with them, did everything, had many powwows about this situation. They are not going to allow this to move forward, or even the intentions of moving forward, unless they knew that almost 100%, if not 100% guaranteed that this was going to happen. Otherwise, they wouldn't waste their time. They wouldn't announce it to the public. That's the other thing, right? If they knew that there was even an inkling that this wasn't going to happen, they wouldn't have even told us. How many deals behind the scenes do you think were canceled that we never even knew about? Right? We'll hear about them later down the road. Like the fact that, Microsoft was trying to buy Nintendo at one point, like way back when, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, side note, if anybody's cares to know, I found out that Sega was actually started by 2 Americans, just so everybody knows. I had no idea about that. But anyways, that's a whole side story. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. This is going to go through, Boo. Okay, it's going to go through. But just like Asante
General
said,
Spartan believes, and we were talking both with Asante and Everborn, which I do on a daily basis, that we believe that this deal will be done by year's end. And it's pretty interesting, Mag, that they're already asking for the second look. Like normally,
I don't think. Yeah,
this second look that they're asking for came rather quickly.
I think that this deal is going to be done before summer. I think it'll be done by June.
Whoa, okay.
I don't think it's going to take that long. I don't think it's going to take the end of next year, end of this year to make it happen. They're already taking the second look now. They are fast tracking it. They are moving it. Okay, they probably got other fish to fry. Let's be honest, right? But like Asante said,
you know why as well, though. If you have a think about it in terms of the economy and the way things are going at the moment, in terms of ruling out Russia from a lot of things at the moment.
Goddamn right.
They're going to be wanting to get the economy pumping.
Yep. That's another angle I never thought of, Dutch. You know, the thing is, solidify your base. Okay, build your foundation. Start bringing the economy up from the inside because you're going to need
grease the palms.
Exactly, and stay out of the international space right now because right now what's going on in some parts of the world, not all, obviously, but some parts of the world are not, anyways, the thing is what Asante was saying, 69.5 or whatever, 69 plus $1 billion, that demands a second look. Okay. And that demands it to be done quickly. And I don't think they're going to drag their feet on this. I think they're going to move this through and they're going to keep it going. So I don't know. And there's 2 reasons, like Dutch brought it up about the whole situation, which what's going on over in that certain, I don't even know if you're allowed to say it. Some people get stricken for it. So I'll just say, what's going on over there. And there's that. And at the same time, let's not forget that we're just coming out of a pandemic, which is not over, by the way. But I mean, at least in our minds, we think it's over, which is great. But the thing is that pandemic has ravaged every industry. Well, mind you, not so much the gaming industry, but it does a lot. Okay. And so you know what? Get things moving, get this economy going, get these people in there, get the jobs going, get the studios built, get them working, get them paying taxes, get the government to get more money from these people. And the only way to do that is to get their asses working and and consolidate it with a company that is, let's face it, already practically working with the government to begin with when it comes to all of their military tech and everything else that's going on over there. So I think by June or July, this deal is done. Anyways. I don't have much of a dog in this fight because this is kind of breaking and didn't have much time to really sit and think about it. But I would say June or July, it's done if they're already doing a second look now and it's only March.
I think it's going to be a nice Christmas present.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking fall because summer would be very quick. But again, I think you're onto something. There Microsoft does have the biggest military government contract that was approved last year in the history of the military. So we know that they are working with them. They're big donors on both ends, both the Democratic Party and
they got friends in high places, Boom.
They do. They absolutely do.
Let's face it.
So you know what? Let's bring in Asante on the conversation, and I'll bring Everborn in, and we'll round it out, and then we'll get everyone out of here. Where do you have any fears that this deal doesn't get done because of this second look?
I mean, is there a potential that this deal won't get done? That potential is always there. But
right.
This specific piece of news leading to that, no way, because this was expected, right?
Yeah.
If they're talking about playing with almost $80 billion in purchase of one company to another, and nobody does anything, nobody does a second look, nobody wants to turn the pages on the logistics even once, that's when you should be worried, right? They right now, the FTC, because of various reasons in the past and all that, are trying to show that they're an entity that still exists, that they're there for a reason, then you should be afraid of them. They have teeth. They're not a rubber stamper, because they were accused of being kind of a rubber stamper before, right? So, and all that works against Microsoft's, potentials in this specific situation, because let us be all real. The FTC does not care so much about gaming, right? Yeah, they're here to make sure that the even playing field are upheld, and by and large, anyone, all the folks who spend time reading the tea leaves as far as the FTC and as far as the Justice Department, as far as all of these regulatory bodies. Everyone that has paid attention to this says, "Oh, this is not going to be a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. Eventually, it'll be fine." It's just we are in the world of grandstanding, right? We're in the world where they have to show that, hey, we're not as ridiculous as they used to be. We're not going to allow anybody to just, rubber stamp things and move forward. So even situations that would go through smoothly still have to stop and get a little bit of attention just to say, hey, see, we're doing our job, right? And what is this? This is not just any old thing. This is like freaking 70, almost $80 billion changing hands, right? Only once in history in recent history has such an amount happened, and not in full cash either, right? So if they didn't do anything about it at all, if they just went, yeah, sure, keep it moving, it'd be like, what do you guys do over there? Like, there has to be some work that's done in there. You guys must cross the T's and dot the I's a little bit, make sure everything is good.
At least they need to make it look that way.
They need to make it look exactly
right.
Exactly. They need to look like, hey, look at us. You said that during prior administrations we were just sitting here letting the fat cats get fatter. Now look at us actively working. Look at us working. Look at us. And hey, look, it's 70, almost $80 billion. We're going to take a very close look at that. Is that going to make any difference? I seriously doubt it. Like, seriously.
Hey Mag, when I used to work in a restaurant, I worked in TGI Fridays for a few years when I was a kid. Whenever the manager would come around and we wanted to look like we were working, we would just wipe the same spot over and over again, wax on, wax off.
We did the same thing too. Just walk fast, and it makes you look like you're going somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
You know what?
Like
Everborn. Now that you're speaking, I want to bring this to your attention. Big Bad Mo in the chat says something, but I think he's speaking for the community at large, because there are a lot of people that feel this way. And he says, but it's cool for everyone else around them to be buying stuff up. And and again, you and I, we've talked about this. This is, folks, listen, we haven't had a chance to really get deep into this because obviously it's speculation. And I don't want to speak for Microsoft because they're a 2.7 or $2.71 trillion company, and I'm just a podcaster with 10K, right? So I can't speak for Microsoft. What I can say,
talk that 10K though. 10K boom is a big deal.
I do appreciate that, but to be honest, there, Everborn Saga, you and I both believe in our hearts that this Activision Blizzard deal fell out of the air, and in doing so, really kind of effed up what they had planned to do. I think this is one of those deals that they could not say no to, and they are going to do it. And I think a lot of their big deals, like potentially bringing in a Sobo and bringing in IO and Avalanche and Crystal D, and maybe even buying up the Tomb Raider IP, have all been put to the back burner.
One, Boom.
What that?
You forgot
WB.
one.
Sega.
No. Okay, thank you.
Please there you go. So there you go. But
Christ.
I mean, what do you say to the Xbox fans who feel that Sony has been able to buy up 7 studios, one of which cost them $3.6 billion, and that's 7 studios in 18 months, right? They continue to add studios, and no one even flicks a nose at them. I'm on the understanding that it is 3.6 billion versus near 70 billion.
Right. So the thing is, I just say, take it easy. This thing it's going to happen, and you just have to consign yourself to the idea that Microsoft is playing at a different league. If Microsoft continued the Obsidian and Double Fine and Undead Labs kind of purchases, then you could have a new purchase every month. But that's not the game they're playing. They're playing in the big leagues. And if you're worried about whether this deal will get done by the FTC, listen. There's a lot of saber rattling, and like you said, K-Sante, they have to kind of make it look like they're doing something, but they do have bigger fish to fry. The thing is this. The FTC and Lena Khan, they really pushed back because they didn't think the Amazon and MGM deal should close, right? And they said, we think this is going to harm consumers because this is just a big company getting bigger. And you know what Amazon said? Prove it. And they dared them, and they said, prove that we're going to hurt customers. And they couldn't. They did not respond in time. You know why? Because the teeth aren't there to do it. So don't worry about this talk that you hear. I know it's a big deal. I know it has to get another look, but even if the FTC or the DOJ wants to stop this thing, you have to prove that this would be harmful for customers. And I don't know how they could. Why? Because guess what? There's one company that is the number one company in the business, and they're the ones charging $70 and $768 for microtransactions, right?
Yeah, you're talking about PlayStation, and you are absolutely correct. And like
if
I said,
the shoe fits.
Yeah,
right?
no, if the shoe fits, certainly wear it.
So again, this is not just the FTC wakes up and says, I'm having a bad day, so I'm going to pick on Microsoft. No, if you didn't believe that this deal should cause any issues, and a lot of people that are in the know say that, not saying it's 100% guaranteed, because some of this stuff is saber rattling, and we are getting close to an election year, and they want to make it look like they are, doing things. Sure, but at the end of the day, and by the way, Boom, you don't have to run this far. You can run straight forward. It saves you like 30 seconds for each shot. I'm just telling you.
This is called farming, ladies and gentlemen. This is how I got to level 151.
Just
but
straight ahead you could go. Anyway, so the point is, don't worry about this deal closing, and Microsoft. It is still a big deal, and you have to understand that like this is still. I know it's Microsoft, but it's still run by people, and and they're spending so much money. All the T's have to be dotted, and I's have to be dotted and T's have to be crossed. Yes. But they are not taking any chances. So this is not necessarily that they can't buy anyone else, because there's so much money involved. This is not just Phil that's making this decision. All eyes in the company are on this. So it is, get this deal done before we do anything else. This is not the FTC stopping them. This is not public sentiment stopping them. They just need to get this deal done. So let the deal get done. I'm sure they already had.
And it's going to go back to business as usual next
year.
Right.
And listen, and to the point about this deal coming out of nowhere, it did. But at the same time, and me and Kay talked about this, I am sure that like Agent 47, Phil Spencer has a dossier on all of his targets. And when the time is right, he will go after them. So the opportunity presented itself, and Phil probably already had the deal ready because he has a deal for everybody. Like Batman had a list on how to kill the entire Justice League.
Yep.
Think about Phil like that. I know you guys like all the Batman references, but again, to wrap all of this up, I think don't worry about it, community. The deal has to get done. It's the biggest deal the company has done in its entire history.
Yeah.
So they're all hands on deck, and they don't want to hear about any other acquisitions. And by the way,
also to your point, Everboard, real quick, to your point, they love nothing more than to hate on big tech. And who do they have in their crosshairs as big tech? The one they actually they want to take down, Amazon. Yep. And even there, they weren't able to stop them.
This is what I'm saying.
Because they're the ones that they're actually after. Them and Facebook. If Facebook presents themselves, it's going to be another day for them. But besides Facebook and Amazon, they don't necessarily have any other real quote unquote big tech in mind that they consider evil. So if they were able to let Amazon slide, there is no way they're gonna hold Microsoft up unless Microsoft is in their bad graces for doing something ridiculous,
And were there any stipulations that Amazon had to keep MGM's movies only?
Not a single one.
Not a single one.
I was just checking.
And do you think now when people start talking, I know it seems a little bit presumptuous, but when people start talking about a global conflicts and stuff like that because of whatever's happening over there, do you think they're going to poke the Microsoft bear who's supplying the army, the military with training tech?
Yeah,
Well,
This is not the time to screw around with them.
I wouldn't, because I think Microsoft and the federal government can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I think that they have it different, but to that end, they have the FTC has gone on record saying that they don't have, the funding to push some of these things to hardcore trials. And like I said, if they want to prove that this will harm customers, Microsoft has an army of lawyers and they will say, hey, prove it, sue us, take us to court, and we'll see what the judges say. So, and do they have the will and the funding to do something like that when there are more important matters than video games?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're
Right?
100% right. But listen, as we cross the 2-hour mark, I do want to get Crispy Bomb and the Wandering Dutch, and we'll get everyone out of here. Crispy, what are your thoughts on the breaking news from Bloomberg's own reporter regarding the second look? Are you concerned at all?
No, actually, this happened way quicker than I thought it would.
That's what I said. I think this is speeding along personally.
Oh, well, I mean, I was one of the few, those like end of the year, it's done. Especially with the conflict. That's what we'll call it, Mag. The conflict right now. You have to realize that like we're not just talking like, DoD contracts with like training people and special ops and stuff like that using the hollow tech that Microsoft has. At this point, you have to forget, apparently, because a lot of people are forgetting that there is a $2+ billion contract with Department of Defense for cybersecurity that they lost, by the way, about 10 years earlier. And then that company, which a lot of people forget about, I don't remember their damn name, but you can go look it up. They screwed it all up and they released so much info and misinformation or information about any Department of Defense, people, things like that. And all of a sudden Microsoft got that contract back. I'm going to tell you something right now. This is actually, I'm with, it probably right at the end of summer, this thing is going to be done. It is going to be done because the world is going to hell right now. A lot of people feel that way. Trust me, when I spend $70 to fill up my tank, the highest I've ever paid in my life, I say, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So
we spent
you didn't
65
say
the other day,
driving
and I
is
have
an
a small
expensive hobby?
truck, so it's ridiculous.
That you didn't say what about the
Well,
cost of
I'm not going to
inflation and you
spend
should be paying more?
$40 on a car I'll never have, Everborn, if that's what you're asking. But besides the point, you have to look at it this way. They're doing what they should do. The FTC is going to do what they want. And at this point, I agree with Kay Asante. He said, hey, they need to prove themselves. Well, guess what? They have to. But at the same time, they're only proving themselves in illegitimate ways. They're just like, oh, we're going to do this now. Instead of like, I was expecting maybe, June or May, what I'm saying, for this to maybe come out. So they're looking at it and they're like, no, we've already heard that we don't mess with you, but we're going to do the PR thing. You know what I mean? And give you your due diligence. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, at the end of the day, Microsoft would have never announced this unless they were fully confident with all of their lawyers, their
100%.
army of lawyers, as people call it, to have somebody come up and say this can happen, and then to have multiple people agree with that person. If that's the case, well, that's your worst case scenario, because I think everybody was on the same page and was like, guess what? At the end of the day, this is technically for Microsoft a cash deal.
Yeah.
Which, yes, Activision is a publicly traded company, but at the end of the day, this is still a cash deal for Microsoft. They have bought them outright with money that is not traded, nothing. This is their bankroll. They are done. Okay. And they want this as quick as possible. And there's a few people in Microsoft that are working for the government that say, hey, we want this done. So how do we do this? How do we make it look right? You guys are ignoring the fact that they are one of the largest companies in the entire world. Okay, like they can buy Sony like 100 times over, it feels like, when it's all said and done. So what do you got to say about that? Stop worrying about these companies. Start worrying about your own damn wallet. Because I tell you right now, I'm worried about mine.
Yeah. No, I mean, great point. And one thing, Dutch,
just one other thing about the closing of the deal, we have to keep in mind that I never really thought the U.S. would be a hurdle, but you have to keep in mind they still have to get approved a lot of other regions outside of the U.S., mainly the EU. And sometimes the EU is, and you can speak to this, Dutch, they're not the easiest people to deal with. So, but I'll let Dutch explain that part of it.
Yeah, Dutch, why don't you close out over here, brother, as we we finish a 3-topic show, which I thought was fantastic. We opened up some serious news, and we're heading up with some breaking news. What are your thoughts on the and any concerns on the deal? And to everyone's point, we have heard that the EU is a bit more strict when it comes to these big acquisitions and mergers.
They are usually, I would say, again, I think we're in unusual circumstances right now with regards one particular market being entirely shut off from world trade. It isn't just a small market, it's a very large market. So any kind of deal that would enhance European and international trade outside of Eastern Europe would pretty much, I would say, get an additional bonus, should we say, bonus exemption on this front, just to ensure that it kind of goes through and provides more economic certainties for both Europe and the US. So there's no concerns on my end, to be honest. It is what needs to be done for a deal of this size. It is one of the largest transactions ever within not just gaming, just in general. It is one of the largest transactions, full stop. So of course the people are going to scrutinize it in detail. I would expect them to. It's not just going to be one of these things that just goes through with a blink of an eye and they just go, yeah, that's fine, there's nothing at all we need to look into, even though the all said and done price is over 75 billion. No, that's obviously not the case. So they're going to go into it with a fine-tooth comb. But when it's all said and done, they'll see there isn't kind of trust issues there in terms of where it's trading, how it's trading, where things are sold, not sold, etc. It's going to be fine. I don't see it as going to be a problem at all.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with everybody on the panel, and I have a full opinion that we are going to see this deal done. I again, some people think summer, which would be fantastic. I think it's going to happen in the fall, towards the end of the year, and then as soon as this deal is done, you'll see Microsoft do their get to know Blizzard, and Mike Ybarra might come out, and obviously he's still with Blizzard. He's a big wig over there, and he'll be working with Microsoft once again. And we'll see the
Uncle
new head.
Phil will throw out Bobby K.
Well, that he's
Uncle
gone.
Phil
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, he's gone before the deal's even officially announced, and they'll walk out the new face. That's going to change the company for Activision. Their culture is going to become a Microsoft culture, which is considered to be the best place in the world to work. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had almost 300 people here today. A little light, but I think that has a lot to do with the notifications not going out. If you are new to the channel, let's say you just found it, I would ask that you consider subscribing. If you are enjoying the content and you are already subscribed, I would ask that you hit the like button on your way out. Those likes and subs do help the channel grow. We are closing in on 10.4K. I would love to hit 11,000 by the end of the year. I would even love to say, I'd love to say 12,000, but you know what? At this point, we hit 10K this year. It was a big goal for me and Mrs. Boom, and we did it thanks to you. But let's get to the outros. And we'll start first with our guest, Crispy Bomb. By all means, brother, sell your brand. Where could people find you other than, guesting on Primetime Gaming? And where could people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media?
Appreciate it, Boom. As always, gentlemen, great conversation, great back and forth. the chat was well informed, and at least if they weren't, they looked it up and said, hey, it's not that bad. Actually makes sense. So at Christian Bomb on Twitter, Christian Bomb 28 Xbox Live. Find me tomorrow night, 7 p.m. The Retro Renegades. We got apparently I'm doing an interview Wednesday with Web Dave,
Nice.
also known as Outbreak Podcast. So
Nice.
look for that. I'm not sure if it's going to come out later or whatever, but ready to do that. Then we got Thursday, 8 p.m., the next podcast. And of course, Breakfast with Boom, Friday, 10 a.m. So yes, full slate for Crispy. Let's do it.
Yeah, looking forward to it, brother. And yeah, Friday's going to be a great show as well. Real quick, before we get to the other outros, tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. The entire crew and panel will be there, and I'll make an announcement on what we're going to be talking about. But we're going to be talking, one of the big topics is the recent hiring spree going on at Obsidian. And who knows, ladies and gentlemen, they could be staffing up for that Fallout New Vegas 2 that we heard that they might be taking over, along with Avowed and Outer Worlds 2. And also this Wednesday, folks, at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the new episode of X Vlog Live, episode 5. I'll be sitting down with the best hair in the business. You know him as Jeffrey Grubb. Jeff Grubb of VentureBeat will be sitting down with me to talk about E3, specifically for Microsoft, what we can expect, and are we going to get any surprises this year? And obviously, Breakfast with Boom, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this Friday morning. Next up, K Asante, brother, you guys put on one heck of a one-on-one via email. That was a fisticuff episode this Saturday. But
that
listen,
was just brothers having a conversation. Come on,
and it was good. It was a great conversation. Everyone had great points. Do me a favor, brother. Sell your brand. Tell everyone about the Gaming Circle podcast at 10 a.m. Saturday mornings, helping you people make our breakfast as we listen to what seems to be one of the best shows on Saturday morning. And also, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, Boom. Thank you so much. I'm sure most folks have heard me say it now. Come join us on the Gaming Circle podcast weekends, Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself and Mr. Everborn Saga, and sometimes an esteemed guest jump on here and have these long form conversations. We pick a topic and we pick it apart for a little bit and see if we can find some use for it and find some understanding in it. It's always fun having those kind of conversations, and last weekend was a pretty good one as well. So yes, I appreciate all those folks who have checked it out. If you haven't checked it out, you can follow it on follow me on YouTube. Actually follow me on Twitter. TKO Asante. Twitter is the best place to do so, because then when I post something new, you'll be able to see it. There are a bunch of past episodes there where we've had some interesting conversations as well. So I'm actually looking forward more to when we will be bringing on the reel back, because Mr. Everborn Saga has been on me about watching Batman, and I did, and now I want to talk about it. The Batman, forgive me, the Batman, because there's a difference between Batman and the Batman. Let's be clear.
Yes, one is emo, and the other one is a real man. But
it's a real man, he says. Oh, wow. Okay.
The thing is,
go ahead, man.
I think we should do it on Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
Look at us scheduling while we're live on the air. Sorry.
Yeah, why not?
After the Halo, we should do it and talk about Halo and the Batman Friday.
There you go. Okay. Done. You've heard it here first, folks. We are doing On the Reel with Halo and the Batman on Friday.
And maybe
awesome.
Boom will join us. Who knows?
Yeah, yes, I will definitely give it the old college effort. I can't wait to see Halo this week. Obviously, that's going to be big. And but listen, K-Sante, thank you for being here as always. Definitely appreciate that. Wandering Dutch, by all means, it's super late by you, so I'm going to get you on out of here. Sell your brand. Tell everyone about what you're doing on your midweek mix-up, as well as your indie project happening later this year.
Yes, indeed. Thanks again for having us, Crispy. Obviously, as always, I think you're almost a second panel member again now. Awesome to have you on, brother. Of course, awesome to be with our usual rowdy bunch, as we are every Monday. But yes, it's awesome topics, good topics again, as usual. different topics compared to some of the other podcasts out there, which is always good. A nice fresh change of pace. But you can find me as usual on Wondering Dutch on both Twitter and on YouTube. Of course, home of the Midweek Mix-Up podcast, which now has a weekend edition on Sunday afternoons. And of course, in April, we have the Community Indie Showcase, which I'm also looking forward to showcasing off this year again with 10 awesome content creators, several developers, some sneak peeks at some upcoming games that have not yet been announced or shown off in any way, shape, or form. Probably some surprises and some awesome guest appearances as well. And of course, that's going to be on the 23rd of April. Work is underway to get that fully fleshed out and created. But yes, it's going to be awesome. Again, awesome show. Make sure everybody smashes that like button on the way out and share it out as well. And for those that are listening after the fact, I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so much. And last but no way least, Everborn Saga, by all means, talk about your product. Talk about On the Real coming back in a big way. And where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, man. Everborn Saga everywhere. That's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. That's the YouTube channel where you can find On the Real. But most importantly, go to everbornsaga.com. The whole collection is now available. Not only that, if you are outside of the United States, I recommend going to Amazon.com, and the Everborn Saga is there, and it works with your Prime subscription. Just putting that out there. But Everborn Saga everywhere. We want to bring back On the Real, talk about some Halo, talk about some Batman, talk about some other things that grind my gears. And listen, you can find me in Elden Ring. I mean, if you invade my world, I will kill you. And I will teabag your dead body as I take your runes. But you could try it if you feel lucky, punk. Elden Ring, out.
Yes. Well, listen, Elden Ring has stolen our soul. Level 151 or 152 as of this evening. And I can't wait to get back to it. But listen, thanks again for being here. Thank you for all the super chats that came in that continue to support Double Barrel Gaming. Big shout out to Elemental Peel, who not only dropped a super chat, but he became a channel member once again. Elemental Peel, thank you for supporting the channel. And of course, I'll close out the show with something, folks, that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. That's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules. And I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends.